Hello and thanks for joining us for this animation essay podcast. I'm Julia Smuts Louw, and in this episode I'm chatting to French director Alexandre Héboyan, who's been paying regular visits to our shores to share his skills with students at the animation school.
This is actually the hardest thing to do as a director, is to come with something simple, strong, with a strong message, with strong characters. But simple things are often opposite things that you blend together and magic starts to happen.
Alex cut his teeth at DreamWorks on films like Kung Fu Panda and Monsters vs. Aliens before leaving to make his feature directorial debut in France with 2014's Mune, Guardian of the Moon. He took us back through the journey of how it all came together.
Yes, so actually I directed Mune, Guardian of the Moon with Benoît Philippon that came with the original story. That was in 2008. I was in DreamWorks. I was an animator at DreamWorks. I worked there 3 years in Los Angeles. And I got in touch with my friend Benoît that had wrote this script that was... he was in touch with a producer, Aton Soumache, that wanted to produce it. And he was looking for a co-director because Benoît didn't knew about animation. He was coming from the live action background. And he came with this story, Mune, about this character, like very interesting, like that has this specific connection to the moon, that lives into this fairy world where you have the moon and the sun that turns around this little planet. And this creature was just a very poetic character with a lot of heart, and it's related to the dream world and to some mystery with this guy that goes on a journey, become guardian of the moon, which is a big duty for this young character. And he messes around with the elements, with the moon, he unhooked the moon, so we're in a poetic world, and gives the opportunity to a character to steal the sun. So he goes on a journey with some fantastic characters, on one being Gleam, which is a female character completely made of wax. So when she can't go out on the sun, otherwise she's going to melt. And when the sun goes down and temperature goes down, she freezes like a statue. How cool is that? I read this, I was like, wow, this is what a universe. And there's this poetic flavor that he had. So it's like basically a tale in this fantasy world of this character, Mune, that goes on a journey to find the sun with Gleam and another character called Sun. And I thought, that would be a hell of a movie, and I completely related with this poetic flavor, poetic universe. I made a movie called Bigouden Migration when I graduated from Gobelin Film School back in 2004. And it had this poesy too, and it was connected with the moon too, because it was talking about those funny bigouden. It's like a traditional outfit in the west of France, and how they had this secret ritual of the pancake, because the pancake is like a traditional dish in Brittany, and how they make this ritual of the pancake, and at the end, the galette, and at the end you understand like there's a relation with the moon. And you can watch this movie on YouTube, by the way. And when I watched this, when I read the script of Mune, I was like, God, this is great. Like, I want to do this. So I had to basically go to DreamWorks saying, look, I'm going to resign because I'm going back to France to direct a movie. And I never, being in DreamWorks, I never wanted to make my life there, to work in DreamWorks. To be an animator in big studios was never a dream for me. It's been a great step when I learned so many things working with an American studio like DreamWorks. Amazing place when you learn so many things, but that was definitely an amazing challenge.
Was it always your dream to be a director?
It's been for a long time, and I wanted to direct shorts after this short movie Bigouden that I did with Gobelin, but an offer to direct a feature. Being an animator in our industry, and I was 27 at the time, it's rare. And also like making this movie with this guy Benoît, I knew the guy, was a friend. And these stories that had such a great potential, and these producers that had a name already, because he did a movie called Renaissance in France, right. And the Prodigies at the time. Now he's been producing Little Prince also, among other films, among moons. So I jumped on the adventure, and we started. So the great thing about this is that working at DreamWorks, you have so many talented people you work with, and one of them was Nicolas Marlet. He's like one of the top character designer in our industry, and we became good friends. I was living next to not far from his house. We were going every now and then out or to sketch together, and I remember those times when Nico was sketching and people will be like amazed by this guy doing those doodles in the bar, and when I suggested him, told him I was going back to France to direct Mune, he said okay, Alex, but what's the story about? And I pitched him the story, and he really liked it, and he said, okay, I want to do your characters. I said, no way. And yeah, this is how it started. Nico making character design, and back to France, started to work with Aurélien Prédal, a very talented art director, and we started to build the first images of the movie. And the first thing we did actually, and we did it over the course of 9 months. Me, the art director, we had the help of 2-3 designers. We did a book filled with images of this world, of this story. We even made some animations, like animation tests. Like some people they do sometimes teaser, to sell the movie. This is very costly to do a little trailer before the movie is produced. So we decided we will do animation tests, just 1 or 2 characters. So I animated those characters. Aurélien did the art direction, and we did some CG. But basically, we focused. The first stage was to focus on building elements to have financial people in, to have studios, investors, producers, co-producers in. We went to see many people, studios and investors, and we ended up having a French co-production with Studio 37, Kinology, Grégoire Melin, on Canada, because thanks to Canada and the tax credit, we produced, the CG was produced in Montreal of the movie, but this was definitively a part of the puzzle, of the financial puzzle of the show.
And the 2D element, was that something you had in mind from the beginning for the dream sequences?
Yes, so there's a couple of sequences in 2D in Mune that I had, yes. The dream was there from the beginning, and I thought it would be really cool to have those in 2D, just because we have this strong 2D culture in France with Gobelin, and I started to do 2D too, and among all the people I was working with, and we thought, it would be a great way to have a change of universe, having the same character, designing 2D, would be a great way to travel. Another travel in a movie would be nice to change the technique.
And is your heart more with 2D or with 3D, or both?
I would say both. I like 3D because there's a lot of things to explore, and you can make subtle things. You can really get into details, production-wise, even in animation. I was never a good animator enough to have pleasure animating things in 2D. I always struggle with the drawing process.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I always found it very hard to always found I was rumbling with the drawing instead of really being in touch with animation. And with CG, I discovered this. It's purely you deal with animation because it's a rig. So you just deal with motion and easy in, ease out, and the performance, obviously, and all the things that makes really you connected with animation.
So going into finding investors, was there something really, the term in English, holy cow, was there something sacred about that movie that you were going to say, this doesn't change, there's one thing about this movie? For instance, I think Benoit said the theme is about nature and a different way of seeing the impact if nature is destroyed or if we go too far. Was that something really important to you? Having the theme intact or the message? Yes, and actually the good thing when you're in a budget like Mune, which is an intermediate budget was 15 million euros, so it's not low, below 10 millions. It's between 10 and 20. So in this range, you still have the freedom to make the movie you want. The struggle we had was more about the way the movie would finish, finishing on an upbeat, for instance, was something a demand from the producer. I wouldn't say we've been treading into the big concept. There was some question about Mune personality at some point, and Benoit has been really good with keeping
keeping on the original flavor of the character. But we didn't have to face like strong notes where we were like, no, look, this you shall not pass. You know.
Okay, that's great.
You never really had to go that far.
So they saw the directors as the auteurs, and it's your vision.
Yes. Even though there was some rewriting process, but see, even in the rewriting, like a guy came to work with us and we worked together. So obviously there was some change in the story. We had to change things. But at the end of the day, both me and Benoit, we feel that the story is way better than the beginning. Like there's been improvement along the way. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's not like story's been stolen from us to have a rewriting process outside, and then you see a movie, you're like, no, wait, no, there's no way this can change. Like this is important. We didn't have to go that far, and I think also that lies in the relationship we've been making this movie with this producer, with this budget, in this world where you still have a freedom as an author to make the movie you want.
And just talking a little bit about the budget, the intermediate budget that you mentioned, I've heard before that there's almost like a no man's land with budgets if you're going above 10 million. Or then below 30 million. Like in the middle there, it's almost harder to get the movie financed because the business model is either, this much. It's either a huge amount like in the American studios, or it's something manageable where you can do a co-production in Europe between a few countries.
I think it's completely accurate, yeah. And it's what happened in the movie world in general. I mean, today you see less and less intermediate budget movie with a sense of freedom, of freshness, of original story, original concept. Overall, you see like big and bigger movies like Marvels and everything, like big budget movies with big stars and stuff.
Properties. Yeah.
Existing properties, or like famous star bringing a book or something, like, or you see like very super indie movies. But the guy in the middle gets less and less present, and it was the same with Mune. Mune is a perfect example of this. It's like an original story for unknown directors. When we had this script, the first script in 2008, we didn't have much for us at the time. At the time where it was also hard to produce like a CG movie. Can't be 5 million, it can't be 2 million. A 2D movie could be around 5, but when you talk about CG, it's at the minimum 8, 7. Maybe. So it's already a lot of money to pull out. So that's why it took so many years to get Mune greenlit. Because this process was, we were really into the intermediate world, And I think today it's even harder. I think if today we were doing Mune, it would be even harder.
Was attaching Omar Sy? Is that I'm pronouncing his name wrong?
Omar Sy, yes, yeah.
I got it right.
Yeah.
That must have helped a lot because he's a big star in France.
Yes, he's a big star. The thing is, Omar came at the very end for the marketing promotion.
Yeah, okay.
And he's been helpful. He was very busy at that time. Also, he went through a down moment, which made things a bit, he wasn't that present for the marketing of Mune. I think that would have really helped to have him more involved. Definitively, Michael Gregorio and Isia Higelin that did the voice of Mune and Gleam were really great and were very present also along this process. But having people like this in the movie definitively help because when the movie gets out, you really need those voices to help the movie have some visibility. Because again, today even more than before, even more than 10 years ago, you have so many animated movies that comes out. And we've seen this with Mune. The date was really crucial of releasing the movie because there was animated features all around. Almost every week you had one animated feature of different scale, like that being an auteur one, or like the big DreamWorks, and then 2 weeks after comes the Pixar, and 3 weeks after comes this, and it never stops. So it's a big deal to have voices that helps you, to give a sense of presence of the movie. It was not the case 10 years ago. You only had Pixar and DreamWorks releasing the movie every now and then, and it was a peaceful moment, peaceful world where everybody was making money. DreamWorks was having big success. They were making like 3-4 millions, 5 millions tickets in France every time they were releasing one movie. Today, if they make 1.5 million, I think they're happy, just because you have so many choices as an audience.
Yeah. I think even in the 90s, they were still using voice actors in Disney movies, you know, people who specifically do voice. And now that's unthinkable. It's an A-lister, you know, it's some really, really big name to get that cut through.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned a while ago as well that I thought was really interesting, that you thought in the scripting process that first act is the hardest to get down because there's so many new ideas that have to be introduced.
Right.
Do you think that was particularly challenging with a fantasy?
Yes, and particularly with Mune, because there's many characters and there's a very rich world to introduce. Fantasy world, there's like old guardians of moon and sun, and there's our main characters and 3 characters to introduce. So it's a lot of things to say, and you don't want to overwhelm people with information. That's a big deal with the exposition, you know. It's like you have to choose precisely how you want to introduce your characters the most efficient way. So it's an interesting process because it relates to who the character is, and it makes you dig into, you know, the character personality. And often, if the exposition is wrong, may due to the fact that the elements of story like characters are not there yet, you know. If the exposition is weak, it can be related to that. But also, it's really a matter of making things simple and straight to the point. It's definitely the hardest thing in a story process.
Who was your favorite character to work with in Mune?
In Mune, I think it was Glim. I really liked Glim. Mune and Glim, but Glim was a great character. And very challenging because made of wax, and she had all those hair like moving around, and for everybody it was a challenge. But on the writing side, it was great.
Okay, they're beautiful characters, just gorgeous and memorable. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to move on while we still have time to talk a little bit about what you're doing here at the animation school. And since we're talking about story, I know you've been putting a lot of effort into developing story skills. So how's that been?
It's been good. It's a very intense process for me because I come here for 1 week. I come 3 times along that process.
It's been going for a few years already.
Yeah, for a few years. I have this relation with Nuno Martins here on the animation school. I love animation school and what they do here. I think it's amazing because I know that Nuno since 2012, since Captain Film Festival. The first one was it?
It was the second. Yeah.
It was the second one. And I've seen the progress of the school and of students. I see the level is going up, definitively, like every year. I see them going up. So when I come here, I have like 6 to 8 movies, a group of students, and I see them every day, and I work on the story, and then, so I've been working 1 week with a story. Now I come today. I'm working with them on their animatic, 2D animatic, and I will come later on to talk about animation, to see the animation, and we still work on the edit. You know, we keep working on the story again and again. Obviously, but it's been a great journey. And even for me, it's it's the best exercise for me because you need to be like to push the creativity, to focus on the story, what you want to say, and like I'm trying to bring them, you know, like, what they want to do, what's their wish in the story, what do they want to tell. I'm trying to have to put this in shape. So
well, something's going right because in 2015 we had the first animation school student film in competition at Annecy, so that was great. That was a great piece of progress for animation school and for South Africa. So what would be your biggest piece of advice, or the most frequent piece of advice that you find yourself giving students working on their student films?
Working on the student films, huh? Yeah, well, I would say keep it simple.
Okay.
Because students they always want to overdo things. They always want to get too much into details. They always want to go too much in creativity. They want to put variation everywhere. You know, they want to put different color scheme everywhere, different design everywhere. In one design, they put you 5 different designs. You know,
they want to have a whole reel in one film.
Yes,
show everything they can do.
Yeah, also there's this aspect of things. You know, they want to put the energy, and then you go into. There's 2 things. First, I think the more artistic, the more value of the artistic stuff come from simplicity. And also then they go into production with this impossible to make movie because it's just too much thing going on. So I really try, when I come here most of the time, I cut things out, you know. And this is actually the hardest thing to do as a director, is to come with something simple, strong, with a strong message, with strong characters. But most of the time, strong characters come from simple things, you know. Simple things are often opposite things that you blend together and magic starts to happen. You know? So I work a lot on this aspect of things, yeah. Although the biggest piece of advice I keep harassing them with is to keep a distance on your craft, you know. And that's something you learn in France. We've been learning that from drawing school, before doing Gobelin or like all those big schools, you know, you always go through 1 or 2 years of art school. And this is where I got this concept of like looking at things in general and try to reproduce them at first in general, and then the more it goes, the more you get into details, you know. And that's exactly the same with making movie, with the movie process, you know. You start to rough things out, and then the more it goes, the more you go into specifics, and you finish with only details. And most of the time, students, because they are eager to start, they're eager to have the movie done, they only give you details. It's like the story is like an accumulation of details. So you're like, okay, guys, which story you want to tell? What do you want to say here? You know, so by doing this, you're backing up a lot, like 2 kilometers away. You know.
I remember one of the students at our animation exchange saying, Alex is always talking about altitude. You need altitude on your project.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Altitude is a good way to concept things out. And I think the best director are the ones that are able to keep their altitude very high. They can envision their process, their movie from a high altitude, because it's always easy to get lost into lower the altitude and be on the ground level where you don't see anything. You don't have any idea of the big picture. You know, it's just like animation. When I teach animation too, it's the same. When you start animation, usually people, what they do is they rush at the table or at the computer and they start to put keys everywhere. And then 2 hours after, it's a big mess and it doesn't mean anything, and they have to restart again, and they're lost along the process. So I always say, okay, first thing you need to do, think about what you want to do, make references, and take some time to have an idea where you want to go. And then you do your main pose, and then you move forward. In DreamWorks, if I had 5 days to animate a shot, at least the first morning, I wouldn't even be at my desk, and I wouldn't have a coffee. I would be at the screening room, at the video room, making references. You know. Then I will sit drawing pose the afternoon, and even just the Tuesday, I will start to animate on the computer. And that's a good illustration of this altitude aspect of things. And usually Friday, you only deal with fine-tuning hand animation or contact on the ground. Like, this is now dealing with details. You know? Yeah, and somehow making a movie is going from this big distance of having a script and finishing 5 years after, like being in a final mix room and looking your movie done. Like, you've been from the very general to the very particular of the artistic process.
I know we're running a little bit short of time, but I just wanted to ask, I know you've got an interesting VR project in the works. I'm not sure if you can talk about it, but would you say is it a similar process working on a VR concept? Would you go about it the same way in terms of generating idea, figuring out what you want?
Yeah.
And then can you still achieve that altitude?
Yeah, it's way harder because the medium is so new and different, and that's what is exciting to me. I always looked those last years at VR thinking, wow, that looks like something I've been dreaming of. And now I do more and more, I see possibilities, I get excited of this. And so I started to work on this VR film with a studio called Backlight in France. That they do VR, they're very good with VR, they've been working many years on this. And for me, it's really like an exploration. So I don't really, it's good because it's like starting something fresh. There's no rules, there's no vocabulary, and you have to invent everything, even the process. Like, I had this discussion last week with them saying, are we going to do how do we do storyboard in VR? Because I've been writing a script of this movie, it's called Lily Blue, and now I'm like, so what's the next stage? Because in film I will say, okay, I'm good enough now I need to work my story on board. But how do we do this in VR?
Well, it's not linear, so I guess you have to do extrapolations.
And how do you envision it? Because can you do a rough version of the movie with the HTC and stuff? Turns out like there's a new software that allows you to make storyboard in VR, like importing images, panels, just like we can do in animatic, on making things very rough to get a feeling of things, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
That's exciting, very new, and yeah, you know, in film, no matter what we do today, the film medium is very mature. It's been there for 60 years. It needs its maturity for 60 years, which means like 90 minutes is a 90-minute object with cuts, with character, a story, and we know what it is. With VR, we don't know yet, and everything needs to be explored. Like vocabulary, like how do you lead attention? How do you tell a story? Is in VR is like become a common question those 2 last years. You know, many filmmakers start to look at this and invest and explore. And I'm really excited to be part of this exploration.
I think the kind of rule of thumb with a film is, I call it the bladder index. How much of the movie can you show before somebody needs to go to the toilet? And that's 90 minutes. I think that's why a film ended up being 90 minutes.
That's good.
So with VR, there's probably going to be different challenges. Like, how long can it be before a Japanese kid dies in his chair because he forgot to eat?
Good, yeah. Or because before you get motion sickness. Or...
yeah. Cool. Well, thanks very much. I think that's probably all the time you can spare us. Are you going to die in your seat from hunger any minute now?
I might.
Watch out for those final year projects at www.theanimationschool.co.za. The school's just won 3 golds at New York festivals, so it seems they've been paying attention. Well, thanks for listening. Animation SA hopes to see some of you at Annecy next month. Come drop by the stand if you're there. Otherwise, see you back here soon.